When a man is at the end of his rope, when the fire seems to have gone out and every door appears to close in his face, this is not the end. This is the invitation. It's in moments like these, moments of uncertainty and weariness, that the seeds of greatness are quietly planted. They do not arrive with fanfare. They come disguised as exhaustion, doubt, failure, and delay. But hear me clearly now. The man who decides to continue, just one more day, just one more effort, steps into a power that few ever discover. For the strangest secret in the world is not merely that we become what we think about. It's that most people quit thinking altogether when it matters most. And I want to speak to the part of you today that is still listening, that still has a pulse, a flame, a reason. You see, what you're feeling now isn't weakness, it's the friction required for transformation. And if you're still listening, I want to offer something of immense value. If you find meaning in this message, I ask that you take a brief moment, pause this audio, click like and subscribe. Not because I've asked, but because the world needs more people who think, who grow, and who refuse to let despair win. When you support this message, you're helping another man, perhaps one step behind you, find his strength again. And you may be the reason someone else doesn't quit. Now let's get back to that word quitting. You see, most people don't quit loudly. They quit quietly. They wake up and pretend, they smile and comply. But inside, they've abandoned the fire. They've stopped asking questions. They've stopped aiming. They've let the world dictate who they are. And the saddest thing isn't that they failed, it's that they surrendered without ever fully engaging the mind God gave them. Now you might say, but Earl, I'm tired, I've tried everything, and I say to you, try thinking again. Think not about the pain, but about the purpose. The man who walks through the storm with purpose in his chest walks taller than the man in comfort with no direction. There is a reason the law of cause and effect is never broken. For every action there is a reaction. For every step forward, resistance. For every worthy goal, a worthy struggle. But what separates the 5%, the ones who thrive, from the 95 who conform, is simple. They stay in the fight. They do not seek ease. They seek meaning. And they understand that every trial is merely preparation. Every setback, a mirror. Every disappointment, a teacher. It is not what happens to us that shapes our destiny. It is how we choose to interpret and respond to it. You may be facing silence, the kind that echoes through your heart when nothing seems to move. You may feel invisible, as if your work, your sacrifice, your pain, none of it matters. But let me share something with you. The farmer does not question the seed on day 3. He waters, he waits, and he believes, because he knows that beneath the surface something is moving. You too must become like the farmer. Trust the law, trust the seed, trust your effort. Keep watering, keep believing. Do not judge the harvest by what you see today. For the man who does this becomes the master of his fate. He understands that growth is invisible before it is undeniable. Let me ask you something. Are you keeping a goal before your eyes? Have you written it down? Is it clear? Is it vivid? Because when the mind does not have a destination, it drifts, and a drifting man becomes bitter, not because the world failed him, but because he failed to steer. You must give your mind a purpose, or it will default to fear. You must wake up each day and say, this is the direction I go. Not because it is easy, not because I feel like it, but because it is right. Discipline is not born from motivation, it is born from commitment to a cause greater than comfort. And so I invite you to take this first step. Not tomorrow, not when you feel stronger, but today. Begin by anchoring a new thought, a thought that carries power, a thought that becomes a law. I want you to write this in the comments now and carry it in your heart all day. I am built for the storm. I think with clarity. I move with purpose. Because you are, because you can, and because the world quietly watches those who refuse to fall. Write it, speak it, repeat it. Let that be your oath, your shield, your compass. You see, the journey ahead will not always show you signs of progress, but you must walk anyway. You must act anyway. You must believe anyway. There are those who will mock, those who will doubt, and even those close to you who will not understand. Let them wonder. Because when the quiet man with a quiet plan meets his moment, the noise of the world falls away. And all that's left is a man who decided that quitting was never part of his vocabulary. We begin this journey not with noise, but with resolve. Not with hype, but with law. Not with wishful thinking, but with sacred commitment. The next 30 minutes will walk you through the forgotten truths, the strange secrets that guide men out of fear and into freedom. And it begins now. Not tomorrow. Not when it's convenient. Now. And if you've made it this far, then I know one thing: you're not done yet. You are still in the fight. You are still reaching. So let's begin with this simple truth. Quitting is not the end. It's the test. And you, my friend, were born to pass it. The moment a man begins to think clearly is the moment he begins to rise. Not externally, though that may come, but internally, where all real change begins. The world has trained us to react, to panic, to look outside of ourselves for answers. But success, purpose, and the will to endure are not found in the noise of the crowd. They are found in the stillness of your own mind. And if you're listening to this now, perhaps something inside you already knows this. Perhaps you've reached that rare place where frustration becomes fuel, where anger turns into alignment. Because the man who feels like quitting is closer to his breakthrough than he's ever been before. The pressure you're feeling isn't a signal to stop, it's proof that you're in motion. Don't confuse resistance with failure. Resistance is the bodyguard of progress. Let's talk about fear. Not the loud kind that causes us to scream, but the quiet kind. The fear that disguises itself as logic. The fear that whispers, "What if this isn't worth it?" That subtle voice in the back of your mind telling you to play it safe, to avoid embarrassment, to keep your dreams small so they don't get hurt. But understand this, the man who fears loss will never gain. The one who avoids the fall never climbs. Growth requires courage, and courage isn't the absence of fear, it's moving forward while carrying it. We must walk with fear, not be ruled by it. And every time you step forward in spite of it, you weaken its grip. This is the secret most never learn. The strongest men are not fearless. They are simply masters of action. I want you to realize something today. Nothing in your life will change until you accept full responsibility for it. That means your thoughts, your energy, your habits, your response to pain, everything. The law is simple and absolute. You reap what you sow. Not sometimes, not only when it's fair, always. And the moment you realize that your current life is a reflection of your past thoughts and actions, you reclaim the power to reshape it. There's no use blaming luck, the economy, or others. If you planted weeds, you cannot expect roses. But the beautiful thing is, starting today, you can plant something different, something higher, something deliberate. Now let me show you how powerful you really are. Take a moment and imagine your life 5 years from now if you were to commit to just one clear goal. 1. Imagine waking up each day with that aim in your mind. Imagine speaking, moving, and acting in alignment with it. Imagine the people you'd meet, the skills you'd acquire, the strength you'd develop, the man you'd become. Do you see it? Good. Now compare it to the life that will result from indecision, from delay, from comfort. And you'll realize that the pain of discipline is far lighter than the weight of regret. Choose your burden. Choose it now. Here's the step most people miss. They dream, but they do not plan. They hope, but they do not act. Hope is beautiful, but it is not a strategy. A man who aims for greatness must write down his aim. He must put it on a card, on a wall, in his wallet, in his phone, wherever he must, to keep it before his eyes. Why? Because the world will try to distract him, and a distracted mind is a defeated mind. So here is your task. Write down your one major goal. Be precise. Not "I want more money," but "I will earn $10,000 a month through providing value in my business." Not "I want peace," but "I will rise daily at 5 a.m., train, pray, and speak only life." The clearer the goal, the stronger the pull. I've met many men who said, "Earl, I'm doing everything right, and yet nothing seems to move." And I always ask them, what are you thinking about when no one's watching? Because it's not what you do once in a while that shapes your life. It's what you think about every day. The mind does not respond to random sparks. It responds to patterns, repetition, emotion. And if you're feeding it fear, even unconsciously, it will produce more fear. But if you feed it vision, affirmation, and purpose, it will pull you forward like a magnet. This is not speculation. This is law, and laws do not fail. You must begin to speak the life you desire. Words are seeds, and the man who curses his day before it begins cannot expect it to bless him. From this moment on, I challenge you to begin your mornings with this declaration: I am focused. I am purposeful. I do not quit. Write it in the comments. Speak it aloud. Say it even if you don't yet believe it, because belief follows repetition. Say it until it becomes your rhythm, your habit, your identity. A man becomes what he affirms, and if you do not choose your affirmation, the world will choose one for you. You are not alone. You are not the only one who has felt stuck, tired, or invisible. But those who rise are not those who feel different. They are those who act differently. And today, you will act. You will take the first step toward mastery, not by waiting for motivation, but by deciding that this is the day you reclaim control. One step, one habit, one goal. That's all it takes, because the man who wins is not the one who never falls. It is the one who always returns to the path. Always. There will be moments in your journey where you feel like giving less, giving just enough. But I tell you now, every time you give a little more than necessary, you train the world to respond. Life mirrors effort. It may delay, but it never denies. There is always a return, but only for the man who stays consistent long enough to collect it. Quitting resets the clock, but endurance compounds the reward. Be consistent even when it's quiet, especially when it's quiet, but endurance compounds the reward. Be consistent even when it's quiet, especially when it's quiet, for it is in the silence that your roots grow deep. You are being prepared, strength is being forged, and though you cannot yet see it, the man who keeps going will soon meet a life that only the persistent are allowed to live. You do not need more time. You need more direction. You do not need to be more talented. You need to be more focused. You do not need the world's approval. You need your own commitment. And once you give it fully and without apology, you will see that the only thing standing between you and your destiny was a single decision to keep going. When a man decides not to quit, what he's really doing is making a vow to himself, to his future, and to the law that governs all achievement. He is saying, I will not betray my own potential. You see, people think quitting is just about stopping an activity, but it's much deeper than that. Quitting is the quiet betrayal of one's own inner knowing. It's the moment we silence the voice that once told us we were made for more. But let me tell you something, no man was born with a fire inside him by accident. If the desire was placed in you, the means to achieve it were placed in you too. The law has never changed, and today we return to that law, not for theory, but for transformation. It is written, as ye sow, so shall ye reap. But very few stop to ask, what am I sowing? Each thought, each word, each act is a seed. And most men go through their days tossing out seeds of frustration, self-doubt, fear, and confusion, then stand puzzled when their lives grow wild with anxiety. If you do not sow order, how can you reap peace? If you do not sow discipline, how can you expect results? This is not a mystery. This is not a matter of chance. It is a matter of cause and effect. And every man, no matter his past, has the power to sow something new today. So let's make it clear. Your current results are not permanent. They are the result of yesterday's planting. But today, you hold the seed, and the harvest will obey the hand that sows it with intention. You may be asking, but Earl, how long do I have to keep going before things change? And I say, as long as it takes. The man who places a time limit on his commitment was never committed at all. The law does not respond to deadlines. It responds to devotion. A farmer does not dig up the seed each week to check if it's growing. He waters, he waits, he believes, and so must you. Because everything you are doing, every book you read, every step you take, every act of discipline is feeding the roots beneath the surface. You may not see the growth yet, but it's there. Trust the process, trust the law, trust yourself. Let's talk now about energy. There is a hidden law very few understand. Energy flows in the direction of clarity. The more precise your goal, the more power your actions will contain. Vague goals produce vague results. But a man who says, I will build a thriving business that brings in $20,000 per month by helping others solve this problem, is sending a lightning bolt of energy into the universe. That kind of clarity cuts through confusion like a blade. The world cannot help but rearrange itself to accommodate a man who knows exactly where he's going. He may not know every step, but he knows the destination. And that is enough. So today I challenge you to stop being vague. Stop saying someday. Start saying, by this date, this will happen, and here is the first step I will take. You don't need 100 affirmations. You need one truth spoken like thunder. Say this now. Write it. Speak it. Declare it. I move with power, purpose, and precision. I do not quit. You may feel silly saying it at first. Good. That means you're breaking the old pattern. Every new identity begins with discomfort. But say it anyway, because one day your voice will align with your reality. One day the things you're affirming will not be a stretch. They will be your standard. But that day won't come to the man who waits. It comes to the man who affirms, who acts, who moves, even when no one is watching. Now understand this. Your environment will often reflect your past decisions. That means your friends, your habits, your income, your health, they are echoes of who you were, not who you are becoming. So don't expect instant validation from those who are still living by the rules you've outgrown. Do not wait for applause. Do not wait for permission. Most of the world has not heard the message you now carry. That's not your excuse. That's your advantage. Because the man who changes himself will change everything around him in time. But he must go first. And often he must go alone. Solitude is not a punishment. It is preparation. If you're walking alone right now, let me tell you something. It is not because you are weak. It is because you are being strengthened. A crowd cannot teach you what silence can. Loneliness is not absence. It is the womb of revelation. Some of your greatest realizations will come when the world is quiet and the only voice left is your own. And if that voice says, keep going, then by God, you keep going. Because the whisper of your soul is louder than the shout of the crowd. Do not confuse comfort with calling. The path of purpose will always demand more than the path of ease. You will be stretched, tested, confronted. That's how the old skin breaks and the new one forms. That's how character is built. That's how grit is born. If you want a life others admire, you must be willing to do what others avoid. And if that means late nights, early mornings, sweat, sacrifice, solitude, so be it. Because the reward is not just success, it's becoming the kind of man who cannot be moved by circumstance. A man whose peace is rooted in purpose. So what do you do when you feel like quitting? You pause. You breathe. And then you remember the law. You remember who you are. You remember that pressure is proof of purpose. You remember that the seed is not dead, it's developing. And then you take one more step. Not 10, not 100. Just one. Because momentum begins with one act of courage, one moment of clarity, and that moment might be now. If you're still here, still listening, then you've already won half the battle. You've stayed in the room while others walked out. You've kept your ears open when the world tried to shut them. And that tells me something. You are ready. Not for ease, but for elevation. You are not ordinary, you are not average. You are a man on a mission. And missions are not for the faint of heart. They are for the few who understand this. Quitting is the temptation that comes right before the breakthrough. Let it come, let it try, but you will not quit. There is a moment in every man's life when the pain of staying the same becomes greater than the pain of change. And that moment is sacred. That moment is a signal not to run, not to retreat, but to rise. You see, change does not arrive gently. It is not a polite knock on the door. It is a storm, a shake, a call in the night that will not let you rest. And if you've been feeling that unease, that tightening in your chest, that quiet dissatisfaction that refuses to go away, then congratulations. You are being summoned, not by the world, but by the higher version of yourself, the version that knows you're meant for more, the version that's tired of the excuses, the version that's been waiting patiently for you to wake up and walk forward. And yet many ignore that call, they delay it, they drown it out with noise, with distractions, with busyness, but it never truly goes away. You can silence your phone, but you can't silence your purpose. It lingers, it waits, and it will return again and again until you finally answer. That is why quitting never truly gives relief. It only delays destiny. You can quit the goal, but you can't quit the calling. You can quit the task, but you can't escape the feeling. Because purpose is not a preference, it's a part of you. And every time you try to live beneath it, you will suffer. Not because you are weak, but because you were never built to settle. So let's stop playing games. Let's stop negotiating with mediocrity. Let's stop pretending we have time. The man who waits for the right time is often the man who never moves, but the man who decides, who says, this is it, no more delays, no more excuses, that man begins a process that no force on earth can stop. Because decision is power, not just preference, not just desire. Decision. When you decide, truly decide, your brain rewires, your focus sharpens, your spirit locks in, and the universe begins to respond to a man who is no longer available for failure. Here is a truth I want you to live by. The man who shows up every day with intention, even without results, is winning. Why? Because he's aligned, he's consistent, he's forming the invisible structure that will hold the visible success. Most people want the fruit without building the root. They want the applause without the alignment. But nature has never worked that way, and neither does life. That's why I'm not asking you to feel motivated. I'm asking you to show up, to wake up, to write the plan, to execute, and to keep doing it even when nothing seems to change. Because that's where transformation lives. Not in the excitement, but in the endurance. Now I want to speak to something few will tell you. You will lose people on this path. Friends may drift, support may vanish. Not everyone will understand the vision. And that's okay, because your vision was given to you, not to them. Stop seeking approval from those who haven't been assigned to your journey. Stop sharing dreams with people who don't dream themselves. The right ones will come, the wrong ones will fade. But you must stay on the path. Because purpose will protect you. It will carry you when motivation fails. It will give you strength when you have none left. But you must stay close to it. You must nurture it. You must guard it from doubt, from fear, from the noise of others. And speaking of fear, let me make something clear. Fear is not the enemy. Fear is the flashlight. It shows you where to grow. It shows you where to heal. It shows you what you must walk toward, not away from. If you fear the stage, get on it. If you fear rejection, start asking. If you fear failing, start doing. Because every step you take into fear, you take a step into freedom. You will not die from discomfort, but you will decay from avoidance. So here is what I want you to say aloud right now. I walk toward fear with strength. I do not retreat. I do not hide. Say it, write it in the comments. Let your fear know you're not backing down. Now we return to action. What is one thing, just one, that you've been putting off? What is one action that you know would change the game? If only you'd take it. Is it a phone call, a letter, a decision, a habit? Whatever it is, I want you to stop this recording when we're done and do it. Not tomorrow, not next week. Now, because what we tolerate today becomes our prison tomorrow. And every day you delay the action, you delay the result, the world responds to movement. So move. Shake the dust off. Reclaim your momentum. Do not give your power away to hesitation. And what of results? Results come in seasons. Some seasons are for planting, some are for pruning, some are for harvesting. Don't judge your entire life by one season. Don't say it's not working because you can't see the bloom yet. Trust the law. Trust the soil. Trust your effort. If you've been doing the work, it is already working. The shift is already happening. You just can't see it yet. But hold on, because the day will come when the vision in your mind becomes the life in your hands, and you will look back with gratitude that you did not quit. And finally, remember this, there are two voices inside you. One says, slow down, give up, you're tired. The other says, keep going, stay sharp, you're close. The one you feed is the one that wins. So feed the voice of victory. Speak it, live it, walk in it. This world needs men who refuse to quit. Men who stand tall in the storm. Men who honor their word to themselves. You are that man, and if you've listened this far, you know it's true. So make the decision, anchor it in action, and step boldly into the version of you that's been waiting all along. Every man wants a better life, but very few are willing to pay the real price for it. I don't mean money. I don't mean sacrifice for show. I mean the internal price, the discipline to face himself honestly, the willingness to look in the mirror and admit, I've coasted long enough. That kind of honesty is rare, because it strips away the excuses. It removes the comfort of blaming others, and it places the responsibility squarely where it belongs, on your own 2 feet. But listen closely. The moment you accept that full responsibility is the moment you receive full power. The man who says, I am the cause, is also the man who becomes the cure. And from that moment forward, he is no longer subject to life. He begins to direct it. Let's talk now about one of the greatest traps, the idea that time will somehow fix everything. It won't. Time magnifies. It makes the strong stronger and the weak weaker. It rewards the man who plans and devours the man who drifts. The illusion that more time will bring clarity is one of the most dangerous lies a man can believe. Clarity doesn't come from time. It comes from action. It comes from movement. It comes from deciding to do and then doing again. So stop waiting for a better mood. Stop waiting for someone to push you. Stop waiting for the perfect conditions. You are the condition. You are the reason it starts now. And the longer you wait, the further away the life you want moves from you. You've heard me speak before about the 5%, the ones who rise above the noise, the crowd, the confusion. And you may wonder what separates them. Is it talent? No. Is it education? No. It is the power of intention. The 5% wake up with a decision already made. They do not negotiate with discipline. They do not bargain with dreams. They act because that is who they are. Not once, not twice. Every day. And if you think that kind of life is unreachable for you, let me correct that thought right now. You're not different from the 5%. You're just undisciplined. But discipline is a choice, not a gift. You build it one act at a time. And you build it most powerfully in the moments when quitting looks easy. Let me give you a law. And I want you to speak it aloud, write it in the comments, and etch it into your mind. Every time I choose discipline, I choose destiny. Say it again. Feel the weight of it. Because that is what this moment is about. Destiny is not found. It is created through repetition, through resilience, through the refusal to fold. You want a better life? Then make better choices. One day at a time, 1 hour at a time. Stack the victories. Forget perfection. You don't need to be perfect. You need to be present. You need to be willing. You need to act when it's hard, when it's dark, when no one is watching. That's where destiny is shaped, in the shadows, long before the spotlight ever arrives. You may think this journey is about success. It's not. It's about identity. Because once you become the kind of man who doesn't quit, everything else aligns. The money comes. The opportunities find you. The energy rises. Not because the world has changed, but because you have. The strongest men are not those who win once. They are those who cannot be broken by failure. They are the ones who understand that every fall is feedback and every setback is strategy in disguise. They walk through failure like a man walks through fog, head high, pace steady, never stopping. And on the other side of that fog is clarity, peace, and a life they built with blood, not luck. What are you willing to give to become that man? Are you willing to give up distraction? Are you willing to sacrifice the cheap high of temporary comfort for the deeper joy of long-term excellence? Because make no mistake, something must be traded. Every man exchanges something daily. The only question is, are you exchanging strength for ease or ease for strength? Are you gaining character or giving it away? You must decide today which side of that exchange you're on, and you must decide to stay on it. Because one day of discipline is not enough. 1 week of effort is not enough. This is a life built on continuity, a series of linked days tied together by will, welded together by commitment. Let me give you something to hold on to. Your mind is your greatest weapon. Not your muscles, not your voice, your mind. But most men leave it untrained. They use it for worry instead of wisdom, for fear instead of faith, for excuses instead of execution. If you do nothing else from this message, do this. Begin training your mind like an athlete trains his body. Read every day. Write every day. Sit in silence. Visualize. Affirm. Repeat. These habits are not hype. They are the handles you must grip if you want to steer your life with force. They are how you master thought, and as you know by now, we become what we think about. And that truth alone should wake you up, because if you become what you think about, then you must guard your thoughts like a soldier guards a gate. No more gossip, no more useless negativity, no more drowning in bad memories. Replace every disempowering thought with a clear vision of where you are going. Your life is too important to spend rehearsing your failures. Use your mind to design the man you want to be. Speak him, think him, act like him, and in time, you become him. The process is slow, but the outcome is sure, and you can trust it if you stay the course. So what is the action now? You already know. The same as always. One step, one move, one decision to reinforce the identity you are building. Do not focus on finishing the race. Focus on finishing the day strong. Win the morning, then win the afternoon, then win the evening. Stack the day, then do it again tomorrow. This is how legends are built, not in a flash but in the grind, not in a single victory but in a lifetime of refusing to back down. And if that's what you want, then take the next step. Not because it's easy, but because it's time. There comes a time in every man's pursuit when the voices in his head grow louder than the ones around him. Doubt begins to sound like reason. Fatigue begins to feel like logic. The comfort of surrender dresses itself up as wisdom. And it is in these moments, not the loud ones but the quiet ones, where your true self is revealed. Because greatness isn't forged in cheers or spotlight. It's forged in the hours when no one is watching, when every muscle in your body wants to stop, when every part of your mind says, just take the easy way. But the man who decides even in that moment to stay the course, to hold the line, is the man who walks into a future most will never touch. He is not exceptional by birth. He is exceptional by decision. You may think that discipline is for the gifted, that some men are just built differently. Let me tell you something that no one else will. The only difference between the man who finishes and the one who folds is that one of them kept going after he stopped feeling like it. Emotions are wonderful tools, but they are terrible leaders. The man who lets his feelings govern his effort will always be tossed by the wind. But the man who installs principle over passion, he becomes unshakable. And what is that principle? That the man who keeps showing up, keeps improving, keeps holding the vision, he cannot lose. We all admire men who are steady, men who are rooted, men who do not waver under pressure, but rarely do we ask how they became that way. They became that way by being tested. Not once, not twice, but repeatedly, consistently, ruthlessly. And instead of backing down, they chose to grow up. Each challenge became a chisel. Each hardship became a hammer. Each disappointment a forge. You want strength? Then understand this. Strength is built when you keep moving through the very thing you thought would break you. Not by escaping pressure, but by enduring it with intention. Let me give you another law, and I want you to write it down, say it aloud, and post it in the comments. The strong are not born. They are built under fire. That's the law. You don't earn the armor by avoiding the battle. You earn it by entering the fight again and again, even after being knocked down. The man who has never been tested may look calm, but he is unproven. The man who has been through the storm and still stands, still speaks with clarity, still acts with honor. He is the man you follow. And more importantly, he is the man you become. This is why I say your pain is not pointless, your delay is not denial, your tension is not a curse. It is all part of the refining process. Gold does not complain when it's in the fire, it just gets pure. And so must you. Stop wishing the pressure would go away. Start using it. Start asking what it's here to teach you. Start rising to meet it instead of resenting its presence. Because the moment you flip your relationship with pressure, you become dangerous. You stop looking for shortcuts and start building strength. You stop asking for ease and start demanding growth. And that shift is the very thing that separates the ordinary from the legendary. You see, most people are obsessed with arrival. They want the end result, the trophy, the house, the freedom. But few fall in love with the process. Few wake up and say, I want to become a better version of myself today, even if no one notices. And that's the great irony. The man who forgets about the reward and focuses on the ritual is the one who eventually gets it all. Not because he chased it, but because he became the kind of man who attracts it. So forget about the outcome. Anchor yourself in the work. The early mornings, the quiet choices, the extra mile. That is where success lives, not in the goal, but in the grind. Now I want to talk to the man who's been showing up but not seeing results. I know what it feels like to wonder if your effort is invisible, to question whether it's all a waste. But I promise you this, nothing you do with full heart and pure intent is ever wasted. You are not planting in vain. You are not grinding in vain. You are building a life that cannot be seen yet, but soon it will rise. And when it does, the ones who laughed will go silent. The ones who doubted will disappear. And all that will remain is the truth, that you earned this, you built this, you became this. So don't give up 5 minutes before the miracle. Stay the course. Let me remind you, you are not broken. You are not behind. You are not too late. Everything you've walked through, every mistake you've made, every lesson you've learned, it all prepared you for this moment. The man who uses his past as a stepping stone instead of a weight becomes invincible. Shame has no power over the man who redeems his own story. Fear has no grip on the man who uses it as fuel. You don't need to start over. You need to stand up. Dust off the past. Not to forget it, but to stand on it. because every scar tells the world that you survived. And that survival? That's your strength. So what now? You return to the principles. You recommit to the path. You wake up tomorrow not hoping it gets easier, but deciding to get stronger. You replace panic with planning. You replace doubt with direction. You replace reaction with responsibility. And you keep going, not because it's easy, but because it's necessary. Because the man you're becoming deserves nothing less than everything you've got. And I'll leave you with this truth, carved in steel and worthy of repetition. If you stay committed long enough, you will not recognize the man you were. You will become the one others look to for strength, for wisdom, for courage. Not because you were born different, but because when quitting knocked, you never answered the door. And that, my friend, is what separates those who wish from those who win. There is a danger more subtle than fear, more seductive than distraction, and more lethal than failure. That danger is comfort. You see, most men never fall because of catastrophe. They fall because they get comfortable. The edge dulls, the hunger fades, the routines grow soft, and without even realizing it, they begin to trade their potential for familiarity. But let me tell you something, comfort is not your friend. Comfort is the slow death of greatness. It is the silent killer that lulls you to sleep while life passes you by. You were not made for comfort. You were made to climb. You were built to reach, to stretch, to pursue with intensity. And the moment you allow comfort to dictate your choices, you begin to decay. Slowly, silently, without protest. Think of a warrior. He doesn't sharpen his sword once. He sharpens it daily. Not because he expects battle every day, but because he refuses to be caught dull when it comes. You too must live that way, not sharpening yourself only when it's urgent, but as a ritual, a way of being. Every morning you rise, you ask, how can I become sharper today, stronger today, more disciplined today? This is the difference between the ordinary and the elite. The ordinary wait to be tested. The elite prepare regardless, and the man who prepares without applause, without pressure, without reward, that man becomes unstoppable. And if you've come this far, it's time for another law, one that I want you to speak aloud and claim with conviction. I trade comfort for greatness. I build brick by brick. Say it again. Write it in the comments. Let it sink into your bones, because this is the shift that takes you from passive to powerful. This is where you leave behind the crowds who settle and join the few who create. Your future is not a product of chance, it is built by choice. Every choice matters. Every hour counts, and every decision to delay is a deposit into regret. So make your deposits into destiny instead. Now let me tell you something else about this journey. It will be lonely at times. There will be days when no one claps, no one calls, no one says good job. And it is on those days that your identity is revealed. Because the man who needs applause is a performer. But the man who moves without it, that man is a professional. Professionals don't work for validation. They work from conviction. They are driven by purpose, not praise. And if you can learn to operate in silence, to grind without attention, to give your best even when it seems like no one notices, then you are already among the rare few who succeed, not just once, but over and over. We often underestimate the power of the small things, the extra rep, the quiet journal entry, the decision to show up even when no one will know. But these small acts are not small at all. They are bricks, and brick by brick, you are building a life that can weather any storm. The man who lays his bricks consistently, without skipping, without sloppiness, is the man who wakes up one day and realizes he's built a fortress. But the man who skips, who rushes, who delays, he builds a house of straw. And when the wind comes, and it always does, he's left wondering where it all went wrong. But you will not be that man, because you understand now excellence is not a moment. It's a lifestyle. You're almost there, but don't let that fool you. The final miles are often the hardest. The final steps test your resolve, not because the path is harder, but because the reward is closer. And it's in that closeness that men become careless. They ease up, they coast. Don't be one of them. Now is the time to lean in, not back, to accelerate, not idle, to focus like never before. Because the finish line is not a place, it's a standard. And if you finish strong here, you will finish strong in anything. And what happens when the breakthrough finally comes? What happens when the life you've dreamed of starts to form? It will not feel like magic. It will feel like alignment. Because by the time success arrives, you will already have become the man who matches it. That's the irony. The reward feels natural when it comes to a man who has prepared properly. He doesn't celebrate like he's surprised. He nods, smiles, and keeps going, because he knows this was never about luck. It was always about law. Cause, effect, effort, result. And now, finally, you are starting to taste the fruit of everything you've sown in the dark. Still, even then, the work continues, because the great ones never stop growing. They never stop learning. They never stop stretching. You must be vigilant, because success has a strange way of turning lions into house cats. Do not let comfort return. Do not let your standards slide. Keep the sword sharp. Keep the rituals sacred. Stay hungry. Stay humble, because the moment you think you've arrived, you've already started to descend. There is always a next level, always another edge to find. And the man who keeps rising is the man who refuses to get soft. So ask yourself, who do I want to be when this test ends? Do I want to be the man who gave up when it got quiet, when it got repetitive, when it got uncomfortable? Or do I want to be the man who showed the world and himself that he can follow through, that he is trustworthy, that he is focused, that he is at his core disciplined? Because that's what this is about. It's not about motivation. It's about integrity. And integrity is doing what you said you would do, especially when no one is checking. So finish strong, finish clean, finish like the man you were always meant to be. And when you do, you won't just complete a challenge. You will awaken a new identity. You will walk taller, speak clearer, move with force, not because the world changed, but because you did. You've come to the final stretch, and I want you to pause, not to stop, but to recognize something sacred. You did not quit. In a world full of noise, confusion, distraction, and excuse, you stayed. You showed up. You walked through the silence. You endured the friction. And that alone puts you in a rare category. Not because you're perfect, but because you are committed. You see, most people start things. They make promises. They whisper to themselves late at night, "This time, I'll change." But when the resistance shows up, so do the old patterns. They shrink back. They disappear. But not you. You proved in these past moments that the man you're becoming is no longer a concept. He's real. Now I want to give you one final truth, one that will live with you long after this message ends. The world is not withholding anything from you. It is responding to you, responding to your thoughts, your speech, your effort, your mindset, your choices. And the more you raise your standard, the more the world rearranges itself to meet you there. That's not fantasy. That's law. The law of return says that you don't get what you want. You get what you are. If you want more, you must become more. And if that truth resonates with you, then let it become your declaration: I am the standard. I am the signal. I am the source. Say it aloud. Write it in the comments. Etch it into your character. Because once you truly believe it, everything begins to change. You see, most men walk through life waiting to feel ready, waiting for validation, waiting for some mysterious sign to appear in the sky and give them permission to act. But the truth is, the permission has already been granted. The call has already been placed. And it came the moment you realized you were made for something greater than survival. You were made to build, to lead, to elevate. That quiet knowing, that whisper you've tried to suppress, is not going away, because it is you. It's your future, knocking on the door of your present, asking, "Will you let me in?" And your answer, your real answer, is always revealed by action. So now we return to action, because no message, no voice, no motivation will ever replace your execution. There is no plan B. This is it. You were not created to dabble. You were not built to sample mediocrity. You were built to decide, to commit, to go all in. And if you do, the rewards will not just be external. They will be internal. Peace, clarity, power. The kind of power that can't be bought. It comes from knowing that when your back was against the wall, when the doubts were loud, when quitting looked so easy, you stood firm. You did not move. And from that place, a man becomes indestructible. Let's talk now about legacy. Because this message, this moment, is not just about today. It's about who you will be remembered as. When your name is mentioned years from now, what will follow? Will they say, "He had potential"? Or will they say, "He fulfilled it"? Will your children, your friends, your future self look at your life and see consistency, honor, integrity? Or will they see compromise and hesitation? Every day you act, you are writing a legacy. And legacy is not built in grand gestures. It is built in the repetition of daily discipline, in the invisible decisions that most ignore. But you chose differently. You chose to finish, and that choice has changed the story forever. You are not the same man who began this journey. You think clearer. You stand taller. You speak with more conviction. And even if no one else sees it yet, you do. And that's what matters. Because internal power always precedes external recognition. The fruit will come, but the root is already there. And now you must protect it. Water it, strengthen it. Do not go back to old patterns. Do not return to familiar traps. The man who finishes must also maintain. And maintenance is not sexy, but it is sacred. It is the daily honoring of what you built with sweat, silence, and solitude. You may wonder, where do I go from here? The answer is simple. You begin again. Not because you failed, but because greatness is not a destination. It is a rhythm, a pattern, a system of being. The 30-day test is not a one-time challenge. It is a way of life, a new code, a standard you return to every day you wake up. And now that standard lives inside of you. It is your compass, and with it, you will not be lost again. You will no longer drift. You will move with design. You will build with force. You will lead with light. And the world will make way, not for who you were, but for who you have become. Before we end, let me leave you with a final law, one that deserves your voice, your breath, your belief. My standard creates my future. I walk with vision. I act with honor. Say it, repeat it, live it, because that law is not mine, it is yours. You earned it, through effort, through repetition, through relentless refusal to quit. And that refusal has now become your nature. You are no longer the man who wonders. You are the man who knows, and the man who knows moves, without hesitation, without fear, with focus, with fire. Now, if this message has strengthened you, if it has become a mirror, a map, or a light in the dark, then I ask only one thing: pass it on. Share it with someone who needs it. Someone one step behind you. Someone who's about to give up. Let them hear this voice. Let them find their own. And together, let us raise a generation of men who do not crumble, who do not fold, who do not bow to fear, but who rise relentlessly because they remember one truth: quitting was never an option.